All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Charting on the Nadex platform. Starting here bright and early at 11 here Central Time. I guess that's noon Eastern over there. We'll jump right into it, but thanks for coming today. This is going to be about charting on the Nadex platform and doing a little bit of technical analysis as well. I am Adam, and I will be your host on this ride today. First of all, we do have this disclaimer. We always have to go through this real quick. There's some important things in here. It shouldn't be too surprising if you've been on any of our webinars before. Very basically what this says, trading on Nadex, it's going to involve risk, and it's not appropriate for everyone. Trading anywhere is going to involve risk. Any money you ever put up is going to be at risk, so make sure you're putting up money that you can't afford to lose in anything, and trading at Nadex and trading really anywhere else. You don't want to be putting up funds you need for food, for shelter. Just that discretionary income is what you want to be trading with. Also, I will be placing a couple of trades on the platform here today. None of those trades are going to be recommendations on things to go ahead and trade yourself. I'm just going to be placing them to show off the actual charting functionality. Everything there. So I'll put this on the screen for just one more second while everyone gets a chance to read it. I do have the questions up on my second screen over here, so if you do have any questions throughout the webinar or there are any technical difficulties, you can't hear me or anything, let me know. I'll see them as they're coming in, and I'll answer them as they come. All right, I think we have a little bit of a double face here on the screen. Just a little bit about me, real quick. I've been working at Nadex since 2017, so about 5 years now, and have been working on focused primarily on both of our platform and all of our products over the last 4 years or so. So the new products that we've been putting out, as well as the building of the platform that we currently use as our main trading platform. And so that's why I really like doing these, especially for sort of the functionality webinars, just because I was around as we sort of figured out a lot of the functionality as it should be on the platform itself. And in my personal life, I trade primarily equities and equity options. Been trading for about 12 years or so. Actually, maybe even a little bit longer, ever since I was 18. I know that's dating me just a little bit here. All right, so we'll get off this screen. I know everyone likes seeing two pictures of my face, but sadly we have to move on. Real quick, we have an agenda. Very, very quickly, I'm just going to go through basically all the features on the platform. We're going to jump over to the platform in just 1 second. We're going to walk through everything and really go in depth into all of the features that the charts have, because there are quite a few, and there are some that are a little bit more hidden, but I think very useful. Also, at the end of the webinar, I will go over just a couple indicators very quickly. I'm not going to do a full in-depth into them. This is primarily on all the features of the charting, but I do want to go over just how you put some on, how you might use the exponential moving average, and how you might use that relative strength index, and how to manipulate them and basically put them on the charts in ways that you want to see them. So now we can actually get into the fun part. Let's get over to the platform here. All right, so we are on a platform screen. Hopefully everyone should be seeing this, or at least we're on the login screen. This is where you're going to log into your platform. If you are new, the way you're going to get here, just go to nadex.com, hit the login button at the top right corner of the screen. I am going to log into my demo account here. I like Nadex account. My super secret password. And we are in. Give me 1 second. My nose is just a little bit runny today, so bear with me if I have to wipe it a little bit. Sorry about that. All right. So we are in the platform. As you saw when you first got in, you have this nice little area over here where this candlestick sort of have a little image that comes across, and this is really where we're going to be focusing on today. That's where the charts live, right? They live in that little area, or I guess probably the biggest area on the platform itself. To actually bring up a chart, though, you're going to need to select an instrument and actually select an actual strike that you want to trade on that instrument. So let's do the indices today. I think got a little bit of movement in the US indices, and US 500 is usually a pretty sturdy, solid one to go in and do. Looks like a good number of strikes here. So basically, I'm just going through the side panel here, going to go choosing my market, going to go choose my strike. We'll choose one just right around 50-50. This one here looks, 45.82 at 2 p.m. I click on it, and there we go. When I click on it, it brings up not only the side panel on my deal ticket over here, but it's also going to bring up the chart in the middle of the screen. And this is going to be how it works for every single contract on the exchange. Sorry, need a little bit more coffee here this morning to not stutter as much. All right, so we have our chart up. We have done it. I'm going to go ahead and actually make the chart the full screen so we can really get a good idea of what the chart looks like, because that's what we're going to primarily look at today. How I'm going to do that, I can just drop away these side panels. So it's going to be these little double arrows here. It's going to be how you want to drop away these side panels. So I have the one down here. I can go hide the industry panel. I can hide my deal ticket, and I can hide my bottom panel. And now we have a very large area that we can look at the look at all the strikes, look at the chart itself. Generally, the default is going to be this when you actually get in there, and I will show you that quick key a little bit later on that I just pressed. But generally, when you actually open up the chart for the first time, it is going to show all the strikes overlaid onto the chart itself. So on the right-hand side, you're going to be able to see every single strike. For the binary options, it's going to be on the right-hand side, and you're going to be able to see the buy and sell prices and actually select them from the right-hand side as well. And you see when I do select them, it does bring up that deal ticket just to make it easier to go ahead and place that trade. For the call spreads and the knockouts, we will go over those a little bit, but it's not going to be the same exact kind of strike setup, obviously, because the strike's a little bit different on these products. But the actual chart and the charting functionality should be the same on those as well. So let's go ahead and jump into this. I am actually going to we'll just do it like this. So first of all, most of the charting functionality you can select either from the top left corner of the chart, so up here on the top left, or you can go ahead and right click on the chart itself. So right there. Most of the things I'm going to right click on the chart. I just find that easier, but if you want to go to the top left, you are certainly welcome to. It's just really just personal preference there. There are a couple things that you can only select from this top left panel. The first of which is going to be your candlestick duration. So the very, very far left option on the top left is going to be that candlestick duration. And this is fairly self-explanatory, but really you're just choosing how much time you're seeing in each candlestick on the chart. So right now we're selected to 1 minute. I think I was probably doing this. Maybe I was trading 5-minute binaries last time I was on this demo account and wanted a little bit quicker. But if you want a little bit longer period, you can go up and select 5 minutes. Right now, each of these candles is 5 minutes long. You can go all the way up to daily. It's going to be the largest. As you can see, though, if you do choose daily, it really is going to really press these strikes down quite a lot. So you can hardly see all the strikes anymore if you choose daily. So let's go back. We'll find one that looks good. I think 3 minutes is going to look pretty good. Okay, that gives us a pretty good look on the chart itself, and doesn't make it too messy while we go through the rest of the functionality on the chart. Moving across on the top left, this is also something that you're just going to be able to find on the top left. It's this little button when you hover over it, and also when you do hover over these, you're going to get a little, you see how it says date range, a little tooltip telling you what it is. If you click on the date range, you're going to be able to select basically the duration of how much chart you actually want on your screen at one time, right? So if you want to just see 1 day's worth of candles, you can choose 1 day. And if I actually go back here, let's see, you can see that this candle here is Wednesday, March 30th at 12:15. Right now, we are on the Thursday, March 31st candle at about 12:10. So that's going to give you about a day's worth of candles to look at. You will notice though, when you actually choose this, it will change your selected candlestick time or your selected candlestick duration. So you do want to watch out for that, because it's basically changing it so it's able to fit all of them into the chart itself. So you can select, a week, a month. You see here we do have some. You can't stay over the weekend because obviously we just have this big blank area for the weekend hours there. But this is just going to be how you select all of these, and then you can also just go to a certain date. So if you just want to find a certain date, let's just say we want to look at yesterday. Well, we have the candlestick from yesterday, and you can also put in the certain time you want. So you can actually go find a specific candle on a specific day very easily. Just get right there, and then you can start any analysis you want to do from that point. All right, let me set this back up though so it looks nice and pretty so that we can go through this. Let's do a 3-minute candle. Okay, we have all our strikes here. As we move on, so the next one is going to be the indicators, and actually at this point is where I'm going to start using this right-hand click, because everything else we do from this point, you're going to be able to access from right-clicking on the chart itself, and it's just something I find a lot easier rather than going up to the left-hand panel all the time. You can just right-click and get this option panel to come out and access everything from there. So the first thing that as we right-click, we see our indicators. So let's go through some of our indicators here. We do have quite a lot of indicators. I'm not going to say we have every single one you could ever imagine, but we do have, I think, quite a lot of them and quite a lot of the more heavily used indicators on the platform. One thing I do actually really like about how we've set this up is if you don't know what some of these indicators are, and I mean, I'll be honest, I have a few that I use. I'm not a huge technical trader myself, but I do like to look at some of them. But a lot of them I don't use, and I'm not that sure on what some of them are, honestly, myself. And so if let's say I don't know what, I don't know what a stochastic is, well, I can go down to stochastic and hover over that little information bubble that's going to be next to every single one of the indicators, and it's going to give me just a little bit of a blurb, so I have a better idea of what I'm dealing with here. It's going to, going to tell me that the stochastic, wow, I can't speak today, I'm sorry. The stochastic oscillator is a popular momentum indicator, and it'll just give me a little blurb about how I might use it. Now, if you do ever want to go more in depth, you can go over to our Learning Center. We do have a lot of these on our Learning Center. Also, Googling is always fairly helpful as well to figure out some of these. If we do want to go ahead and just place our indicator on the platform itself, let's say we want to put the Bollinger Bands on, we just click, and there we can see we have our Bollinger Bands on here. Actually, might look very strange because I think I have changed up the the settings on Bollinger Bands on webinars on doing this webinar before. But you'll see we have our Bollinger Bands overlaid, and then you can go on and put basically there's going to be two kinds of indicators, the primary kinds of indicators, at least in terms of functionality. They're the ones that sort of overlay on the chart itself, and then there are going to be the indicators that are overlaid underneath the chart. So something like, let's see, MACD is going to be under the chart itself, while the Bollinger Bands and other sort of things are going to be on the chart as well. I'm just going to take off the stripes, and again, I will show you how to do that in just a little bit. So we have our indicators on the platform, overlaid on our chart. We got it going, all good. Now, what if I want to go ahead and actually change some of the parameters of these indicators? Well, you can do that, and how you're going to do that is if you see on the for all of the indicators that are overlaid, it's going to be on the bottom left of the chart, this little box here that says BOLL for your Bollinger Bands, and for all of the ones that are underneath, it's going to be sort of the top left. So they're going to be these two boxes right here. If you actually click on them, you're going to get this is going to come up, and it's going to allow you to actually change all of your settings on any of your indicators. And actually, so if I actually reset this to defaults, this is how it's going to look if you just default set up the Bollinger Bands. I think I had already played around with it a little on a previous webinar. But as you can see, you can go ahead, you can change the period. So if we didn't want a 20 period, looking at the Bollinger Bands, we could change it up to maybe 26 is one that people use quite often. And if we didn't want instead of having 2 standard deviation for our ranges on the bands, maybe we want, I don't know, 4 standard deviations for the ranges on the bands. You see there's just got a lot wider. But if you have a strategy that you really like trading on that, you can definitely do that. And then also, you can change these to dotted lines, right? You can change them to, smaller dots, thicker lines. You can change so you can change the colors. You can really customize these to just however you want them. I'm, putting on these Mardi Gras colors here. I'm missing New Orleans, so I'm putting them on. We have our nice Mardi Gras colors for our Bollinger Bands now, and there we go, nice and beautiful. Similar thing with the moving average convergence divergence, the MACD. If you click on that, you're going to be able to choose all of this as well, right? So you can do a 26 and 52 period if that's something that floats your boat. So there you go. Now you have a much different setup on the MACD. I'm actually going to take these off for right now because it does look quite messy. But to remove them, I should have stopped on that. To remove them, you're just going to hit this little X. So the little X right here on the side of the thing that you actually the button you press to get the different settings up. You're just going to want to press that X, and there you go. Your indicators are gone. So moving on, that was really everything that we had with those indicators. I will go back, as I said at the beginning, I will go back a little bit later and just do a very quick overview of the exponential moving average and the relative strength index. So stick around for that. But we will move on now. We're moving down to drawings. Drawings, you're going to notice a very similar toolbar to the indicators. And similarly, you do have these little blurbs that if you don't know what these things are, you can go ahead, hover over them, and it will give you a little bit of information about what you're seeing. So if, something like a Fibonacci retracement, if you aren't sure what that is, you can go ahead, look in there. Fibonacci retracement gives you key levels of support and resistance. And then you can say, okay, well, I want to do that. If you click right on there, you're going to be able to go ahead and select your Fibonacci levels, right? Now, every single drawing is going to have sort of different ways that you want to click onto it. And this is, I didn't really put the Fibonacci retracement on there in a logical sort of way. This isn't really how you draw one, but you can go ahead and just select any sort of drawing, and you're going to have different ways that you go ahead and click on. So if I want a Gann fan, I click there and draw it down to the end here, and now we can see a lot of different drawings, very messy on my chart itself. There are a couple other little tricks and tips in this drawing area. First of all, if you draw a lot on the chart, we do have a little drawing toolbar that you can toggle on and off. So if I go click show drawing toolbar, it's going to put this toolbar down in the bottom left corner of my screen. And now I'm going to be able to select this a lot easier. So let's say I want to draw a channel, I think this is, yeah. So let's say I want to draw a channel. I can draw my channel from here to here, and there we go. So again, not a great actual drawing on here. I'm not taking the time that I should to actually go ahead and make these drawings very good, but just showing you functionally how these work. And so you can always select them from the drawing bar itself. So if you really do like drawing a lot on your screen, I do recommend toggling on this drawing bar, and then you can, just throw your arrows, your charts, all of your downchain channels, and everything on there as you see fit. One other thing, and let's see if I can, it's always very hard to show this bit, so let's really zoom. Let's go back here and zoom in to, actually, let's zoom in over here. Okay. So we're very close to some of these, and so as you can see, not sure if you can see this. So this indicator right here, this says snap to HLOC prices. So HLOC, high, low, open, close. It's basically referring to the high, low, open, close of the candlesticks, right? So when this is selected, what you're going to see, and let me actually turn it out. So I'm drawing an arrow right now, and you can see as I sort of move over these, it's kind of snapping on to these points. And so basically what this setting allows you to do is very easily, and it's very hard to show on this, but it's very easily allows you to kind of snap directly to a point, right? So let's see if I can show this again. So as I sort of get near it, there we go. It sort of snaps onto the top, so I can very easily snap, and sort of draw these down, right? If I do turn this off, it's not going to do that anymore. And now I can go and, as I draw over across it, it's not going to snap to these anymore. I'm sort of free drawing a little bit more. It's very hard to see that. I'm not sure if that really showed up on the webinar itself, but just know that that's what that setting does. It just snaps sort of to the different parts of the candlestick so that you can draw on the candlesticks and draw from one candlestick to another a little bit easier. And the last thing on here, because I do have a very kind of crazy looking drawings on here. If I want to get rid of all of these drawings because it's very, very crazy and it's messing up how I'm seeing a lot of my charts right now, I can go over here in the very bottom. It's going to say delete all drawings. I can delete all my drawings and they are gone. If you did want to undo that, you can quickly click the undo button. I don't want to undo it. These drawings are pretty bad that I put on the chart here, so I'm going to delete them and they are gone. You can also just hit this X button here. and this X button is going to drop away the drawing toolbar as well. That's really going to be all we have for the actual drawings. Moving on down, I'm going to turn my HLOC snapping back on. Moving on down, we have our different types of candlesticks. So the default is always going to be your just default candlestick, right? That's what's selected right now. We do also have 4 other kinds of charting that you can look at on the platform. We have your Fibonacci candles. Fibonacci, very basically what that does is it gives you an average number for your high, low, open, close, rather than giving you the absolute numbers. And you can see when you do have this sort of averaging effect, that what it really does is it gives you that smoothing effect on the chart itself. There are reasons why you would want to use this. There are reasons why you wouldn't want to use this. I'm not going to go fully into this. If you are interested in the Fibonacci candles, you can go. I think we do have an article on our Learning Center that you can check out. But yeah, that very basically, the Fibonacci is just going to be that more averaging of the numbers, and so it basically gives you that smoothing of the up and down candles, or the red and the green candles, right? Going down, we have a line, fairly self-explanatory. This is going to be your line graph. We have our HLOC graph, very similar to the just the normal candlestick graph, right? It just has the HLOs, the open and the close kind of comes off left and right, respectively, and the high and the low is still on there. So just a little bit different way of presenting the candlestick. And moving on down, we have our mountain chart. So mountain is just going to be the line, but shaded underneath. I'm going to go back to the candlestick for the duration of this webinar, but that's going to be how you select the different types. All right, we are down to our ask, bid, and last traded. So this price column, right? So one thing that I do like to point out about this price column is that basically you always want it to be last traded. If you don't know why, you would change it, right? You don't really want to change this willy-nilly, because what this will do is this will actually change the price the chart is showing. So generally it's going to be defaulted to last traded, and why you want that, so let me pull up a ticket here. So why you want that, you can see the indicative price on the ticket right now is going to be about the same as the indicative as the price on the chart, right? So as it moves up, 575, 575, right? These prices are going to be in sync, because what the last traded is showing, what the indicative is showing, is kind of the last traded price gone through the settlement calculation, right, of the underlying market. You can change that though, and you can actually change that. So if you change that to the ask, well, now it's actually going to show you all the ask prices of the underlying market. You can change that to the bid, and you can change it to the midpoint, right? So rather than the actual last traded, and the last traded is actually what you are trading on, right? So the last traded trades in the underlying market. That's what we actually come in, get as our data, and that's what we show on the chart. That's what we show on the pricing, and that's fundamentally what you are trading off of, right? And that's fundamentally, will this be above or below this line? That line is determined by the trading in the underlying market. However, you can change to the ask, you can show the bids in the underlying market, but what's going to happen here is you can see now the indicative that's showing up on the chart doesn't match the indicative that's showing up on the deal ticket. Why is that? Well, it's because, again, you've changed what you're showing on the chart, but the deal ticket's still showing that indicative price that the contract's going to be based on at the end of the day. So there are reasons you might want to do this, but I would say if you don't have a good reason to do this, you really should just stick with last traded. And if you ever do see your charts not matching up with the indicative, that's probably one of the first places you should look. I did used to be on the customer service team very long ago, and that was something that we got quite often, is when people would call in and say, the chart is no longer matching my indicative, what's going on, something's broken. Well, generally 9 times out of 10, actually probably 99 times out of 100, it's going to be the not selected the last traded. Now, I know I just went on a kind of long rant about why you shouldn't change this, but one scenario where you might want to is when you're using quick charts. So we're going to take a little detour from our right-clicking menu here, and we're going to move on up to the top right panel here, this little hamburger menu. So what the quick charts are basically, so the default charts that you're going to see on the platform in the middle of the screen when you actually bring up a ticket, those are going to be charts of the underlying market, right? What's trading on the underlying market. However, you can actually go and see charting of the specific selected strike itself. So let's say we have this strike selected, right? And probably what's going to happen is this strike was a lot more expensive, and now as the underlying market's going down, the price of this actual contract has gone down as well. You can actually chart that, and so if you go up and on the top right, click on this little, it's called a hamburger menu. You can see you sort of have the three little horizontal lines. You can go switch to quick chart, and what this is going to do is it's going to give you a chart of the actual contract you're on right now itself. So if you actually look on the top left here, it's not just US 500 June, it's US 500 June greater than 4578.6 at 2 p.m. And you can see here, that is actually the strike we have selected. Now, why did I start talking about this when, and we'll do a 1 minute candle here so you can see a little bit more. Why did I bring this up when I started talking about the bid and the ask and the last traded? Because this is actually a time where you might want to change that up. So right now, I have the midpoint price selected. So what it's showing me is the midpoint between the buy and the sell, right? So you can basically see the history of this one contract, right? Back here it was pricing at about 61 as the underlying market went down. The price of this contract is going down as well. And we can see as it's moving up and down, we have our 50.63. It's just basically showing the midpoint pricing here. If I go to see the ask price, well, now it's going to be showing me the buy price, right? So 48.25, we should see this matching up basically perfectly with the buy side pricing here. So as we move up and down, it might be just a second delayed. And then we can switch to the bid as well. We see 45.50, 45.50. It's moving up and down. And we can actually, select that, trade off it. So you can get a good idea of the kind of history of what the actual bid was, what the actual ask was throughout the contract's life itself. And so I think this is quite useful. This is one of the times that I actually will change my chart up and say, okay, what was the sell side doing 10 minutes ago on this, right? How much is the sell side dropped, or how much is the buy side dropped, right? Or how much is the buy side dropped? Basically, see what has happened in the history of this specific contract and this specific strike price, rather than the history of what's going on in the underlying market. And then if you want to go back, you just click on this little, the little hamburger bar up there at the top right, and you can switch back to the default chart, right? And you can get back to the default chart. Now we're looking at the underlying pricing again. You do want to make sure, though, I still selected on bid here, that you change it back to last traded, because if you don't, there might be some confusion if you don't. So I usually just try to change it back to that last traded price once I am done with the quick chart. But that is going to be the quick chart functionality. That's one that's a little bit hidden, but I think is super useful, just to, rather than seeing the price of the underlying market itself, to see the price of the actual strike that you're trading on. And you can do that with any strike. You do have to go back to the chart, select a different strike, and then go back to the quick chart. And then again, you can see the price movement of the actual option itself. So I think we dug into the actual pricing a fair bit there. I think we've gone over that quite enough. Moving on down, we have our scale here. The linear is actually going to be the default. So when you actually jump on your platform itself for the first time, linear is going to be set as the default. And what does linear do? Well, it's all about these pricing on the right hand side, right? So this 45.96 down to 45.70. Basically, it's just giving you right now the ranges of the S&P 500, right? Or not the ranges, but the different levels that it could be. And so you can kind of very quickly see, okay, if I go right here, it's about 45.96, right? You have a very clear indicator of what these prices are if you look over on this sort of legend on the right-hand side. If you switch it to percentage, it's going to change these numbers to percentages. And if you actually look back at the very first candle, the 0% is always going to be set at the very first candle on the left-hand side of your screen, right? So you can see here, this first candle that I'm showing on my screen, if I go all the way over, we're at 0%. This is important because it very quickly allows you to see the percentage movement that has occurred from the first candle to where you are now. So I can very, very quickly go ahead and see and say, okay, when was this candle? This was March 31st at 9:33. So 9:30 a.m. this morning until now at what are we? 12:30 Eastern time. I can see we've moved down about maybe 0.1%, and I can quickly see that on the right hand side, right? And I can see, okay, well, at whenever this was at about 10:57 Eastern, we were up about 0.2%, right? So we've dropped from up about 0.2% to down about 0.1%, and all of this obviously relative to the first candle you're showing. I like this a lot more than the linear. I think it's a lot more useful just to be able to very quickly see, how much has the market moved since the first candle I'm looking at, or really how much has the market moved with the chart that I'm looking at on my screen, right? In the period I'm looking at here, I can very quickly see that. And that's why I like it. Obviously, it's personal preference. You can put the linear up as well and just have the actual numbers here on the right-hand side. I kind of like the percentage as well because as you can see, as I move up and down, on the right-hand side, it's telling me the price anyway that my cursor is. So I can always sort of just hover over here and I can see, over on the right-hand side, we have 45.95. That's about the price, and that's up about a little over 0.2% from the introductory candle over here. So that's what I like using, and just another little tip and trick there. All right, we're going on down to the show panel. This is one of my favorite panels because we have our nice little hotkeys here. And I'm also realizing I forgot to talk about the hotkeys earlier, so we'll go back and talk about those. Some of the other hotkeys as well. We'll do a big old hotkey hot button issue here. So we'll get down to those in just 1 second. But first, we have on the show panel our HLOC data. So what that is, before I turn it off, so as I move my cursor around, you'll see this box is following my cursor, and the box is just telling me for the selected candle, what is the last traded. What it's telling me that it's showing me the last traded price. It's also showing me what the highest, the lowest, the open, the close, and the overall changes in that candle. And if I do have, let's say I have, Bollinger Bands selected as well, or no, it has to be one that's overlaid. Bollinger Bands selected as well. It's also going to tell me the actual Bollinger, Bollinger plus, MA, Bollinger minus, right? So the top, the bottom Bollinger ranges, and the moving average in the middle. That is what this HLOC data is. So if I turn this off, see that box is no longer following me around. So there's a lot of information in this HLOC box, especially when you have a bunch of indicators on. You can see very quickly a lot of really technical data about the indicator that you're using. You can see the high, the low, the open, the close, and the change of the candle very easily with this on. But it does take up a little bit of screen real estate, so some people might turn it off if you don't need it. But I do like having it on. So that is this HLOC data. Again, just to make sure you guys are seeing it, nothing on there now. And now we have this little box following us around. We have our drawing. So if I go back and put a drawing on here, we can show and hide our drawings. So we've hidden them. Fairly self-explanatory there. I'm going to delete this drawing again. We can show or hide our indicators. So again, pretty self-explanatory. Now these next four do have hotkeys. Now really quick before I get in there, let me take my Bollinger Bands off. So let me actually place an order really quickly because a couple of these are actually tied to either working orders or open positions you have on these. So I will get into this contract really quickly. Let me enter. I know I'm going through this really quickly, but I'm just getting into a market order and I'm going to get into a limit order as well. Let's do limit at $1 so we don't get billed. All right, so you'll see when I put these up, I have this strike selected, and now also if we go into our bottom panel here, I'm in one position, right? So I have one position. I also have one working order on this position, right? And working order, if you're new, a working order is basically you just have an order out there that will trigger at some point in the future given a certain criteria. In this example, it's telling it to trigger if the buy price gets down to $1. Probably won't happen. That's why I choose that one so you can have a working order to look at. but we can also see it overlaid on our chart itself. So this is going to be my actual position. So this, and you can see as it goes profitable or it stays negative, it's going to be red or green, and it's going to tell me it's okay. It's +1. +1 means that's a buy side contract. If I was on a sell side contract, that would be -1. Above, again, it would say below if it was a sell side, I believe. Actually, I believe it still says above. +1 above 4578.6. We see 4578.6. And then it's telling me my profit and loss. And then this little grayed out, that's going to be my working order, right? So my working order is this little gray box. My open position is going to be either green or red, given if I'm in a profit or loss. And if you have two of them on the same strike, it's always going to overlay on the strike itself. You have two of them on the same strike, the position should be on the left and the working order should be on the right. Now, why did I bring this up right now? Because you can toggle these, right? So I could go in here, I could say, show my open positions, I could turn that off, and now I'm no longer seeing my open position. I can turn that back on, and now it is back on the strike. Same thing with working order. I can toggle that on and off as well. And you can see that box going on and off as I toggle it. Just going on down, I'll go into the hotkeys in just 1 second. The hotkey that I was using earlier for showing the strikes, this is what I use all the time. This is maybe the thing I use most on the entire platform. You can hide and show the strikes. So I will very often have all the strikes up, be looking at it, see, okay, what strike do I want? What strike do I want to choose? Maybe I want to start trading this one, and then I could go and hide all the rest of the strikes. But I usually don't even use the menu itself. What I will do is use a hotkey. And so if I press the S button, I can hide and I can show my strikes. So it makes it super easy to very, very quickly, without even going into a menu, to put your strikes on. So I'll very often be looking through, I'll be like, okay, this looks like a fairly good strike. It's right around where I want to be trading, right? I like, I like the 50-50s. That's something that my strategy goes for. Now I can hide the rest of the strikes. Now I'm just looking at the one I want to look for, and maybe a little bit later on, I want to bring them back up because I want to look at, the 27, and then I want to hide the rest. So that's something I use all the time. But we do have hotkeys for the rest of these as well. So you can actually see, if you ever forget these little grayed out numbers, I hope you guys is picking this up. You see P next to open positions, O next to working orders, S next to strikes, and T next to timeline on sort of the right-hand side. And so if I press P, I can toggle my open positions on and off. If I hit O, I can toggle my working orders on and off. And S is what we just showed. If I hit S, I can toggle my strikes on and off. And then if we hit T, T is going to be the timeline. So this little timeline down here at the bottom, that's going to toggle that on and off as well. Just had a question come through the chat. Sorry, I came in late. Is this being recorded? Yes, this is being recorded. All of our webinars will be put up on the YouTube site, the Nadex YouTube channel, directly after, or generally within a couple hours of the webinars. You can also find a lot of other webinars I've done there and a lot of other videos that we have. So yeah, don't worry if you're late. You will be able to go back and watch the beginning. So those are going to be the hotkeys, at least for this area. Again, I use these a lot. I really like hotkeys in a lot of different platforms I use, and I actually am a big proponent of putting even more in here, just because it allows you to very quickly, it allows you to very quickly, without like going into a menu, just very quickly do something on your keyboard and then get back off of it, right? So if I, I can very quickly see my working orders, my open positions, and I can very quickly turn them back on. Those actually aren't the only hotkeys, and I did forget earlier to tell you about one other hotkey, and that is going to be the hotkeys associated with the intervals. So earlier when we were talking about, you can change the different intervals of the candlesticks. You can also do that with hotkeys, and you can see right next to the hotkey, or right next to the actual menu option, you do have these little, again, grayed out buttons. And so if I just start typing in here 10, oops. Sometimes it doesn't, 10, there we go. It's hard to see because I'm in dark mode, but you can see I've typed 10 into this box, and if I actually hit it, it's going to give me my 10-minute candlestick intervals. And so you can do this for everything. If you just type in like 10 and nothing on the end, it's going to do minutes, but if you type in H, it'll do hours, D will do days, and I think S is seconds and T is ticks. So let's try that. Let's make sure I'm remembering correctly. If we do 2H, yep, you can see 2 hours. I type in 2H there, it's telling me 2 hours, and I hit enter. Now I have 2 hour candlesticks. 1D, I believe, should be 1D daily, yep, daily. And then I think 1S should be seconds, yep, 1 second. And then 1T will give me my ticket chart. Again, you feel free to just click them from here. But once you do get them down, it actually makes it a lot easier to just not actually have to click in anywhere. You can very quickly, just while you're on the chart, say, I want a 5-minute candlestick. Boom, done. I have 5-minute candlesticks, right? Without going into any menus, I can do that very, very easily. Can you tell that I really like hotkeys? I'm a big fan, but I think you know, it might take a little bit a little while to learn them when you're first using them. But once you have them down, I mean, I use this strike thing constantly while I'm trading on here. So just a little tip. I will now stop harping on hotkeys as much as I like to. Just a couple more things on the little show panel. I'm going to hide these real quick. A couple more things on this show drop down. We have our price change. So the price change is going to be this little panel down here. So see as I toggle this on and off. And what this little section is, it's telling you the overall percent movement from the entirety of the chart you're looking at, right? So it'll actually tell you the linear and percentage movement. So earlier we were talking about linear and percentage on the right-hand side of the screen. But you can also see that very easily. You can see since this first candle, it has moved down, the US 500 has moved down 20 points, and that is about a negative 0.46 downward movement, right? And so you can see that very easily. You can also see, this will tell you the high and the low for today, and it will tell you the high and the low for the period that you're looking at. So this first candle should be, let's see. And by the way, when I'm looking at the times, you can see the times on the bottom of the screen here. So see where my cursor is? If I move this around, you can see the actual time of the candlestick. Sorry if I didn't make that clear earlier. This is how you're going to want to look at what time these actual candlesticks happen. So if I go all the way back to this first one, you'll see it says March 31st, sorry, at 6:18. And again, you'll see this says March 31st at 6:18 until this most recent candle. So that's basically what this little price change or price line, I think it's called. Is it called price change or price? Price changes is what it's called in the show menu. Very basically just showing you the absolute high and low of today, the high and low of the actual chart you're seeing on the screen itself, and then also the both the linear amount it's moved and the percentage move that it's made over the period that you're seeing itself on the chart. So you can see that it's moved down 20 points, moved down about 0.5%. And so again, you can toggle that here if you like that. If you don't like that, I usually like having everything on the screen. I don't care how complicated it makes it, but some people like a really, some people like to have a really clean chart as well. And I don't, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And then the very last thing is going to be the price line. And I don't know if you just saw that, but so you can see on the right-hand side, we always have the actual price of the market. And if we turn on the price line on and off, you can see this very faint blue line. And that's just going to be the price line. It's just this line that goes across the chart that shows where the current price is. All right, now we are on to layouts. We're moving through pretty well here. We have about 15 more minutes until the end. If you do have any questions, remember you can throw them in the chat, or you can wait till the end. I'll answer some at the end as well. All right, we have our layouts. So layouts basically is what you want to use if you have a certain, let's say I always like using Bollinger Bands. Let's put them on here. I've been picking on Bollinger Bands a lot, but you know, they're nice, and I already made the Mardi Gras colors. I need my yellow really. So we have our Bollinger Bands on there, and we have I don't know. Let's say I always do Bollinger Bands and MACD, right? Pretty simple, easy one that we were talking about earlier. I can go in here and I can actually save this layout. So let's call this Adam's Super Cool Layout. There we go. And now I've saved this layout. So now what I can do, let's take these indicators off. Now let's say I want to go look at a knockout on I don't know, let's do oil. Say I want to do an oil knockout here. And so now I have my oil knockout showing, but I want my Bollinger Bands, my MACD, because I use that on everything, right? That's how I trade. That's not actually how I trade, but let's say it is. I can go in and I can go layouts, apply, and what did I call it? Adam's super cool layout. I think that's what it was. I can apply that, and there we go. We have our Bollinger Bands, we have our MACD. So if you always have a certain setup that you use, it's very easy. You can go ahead, save your layout, and then you can just apply it every time you log in or to whatever new chart you're going over to, whatever new market you're looking at, or if you have a number. Some people like looking at certain setups one way, certain setups another way. You can have a number of different layouts. You can very easily save them and then just apply them wherever you would like. Let's get back onto our indices though, because I do have my open positions here. Let's just get back this way. All right, we're back on this, and let's take this lay off. We're taking these indicators off real quick as well. And then last thing on the layout is delete. So let's say, I don't like Adam's super cool layout anymore. Delete, and it's gone. So that's layouts, pretty self-explanatory, but I think a very useful feature, especially if you do have the same sort of setup that you'd like to trade on everything. Oh, man, I love coffee. Moving on down, we have customize appearance. So this is where you're going to be able to customize the appearance of your chart itself. You can change it all up. So let's go through here. If you like your unchanged candles to be blue and your rising body to be yellow and your falling body to be, and I'm just doing Mardi Gras or LSU colors all day today. I feel like I do that a lot on these webinars, but there we go. We have our nice LSU colors, and we'll put our grid as green. Now it's basically Mardi Gras colors again. And you can also do show watermark. The watermark is going to be here. I'll apply it. So we can see the watermark in the background is just going to tell you what the underlying market is. So you basically can customize the appearance on all of these. You can make these thicker if you want. Again, pretty self-explanatory on all of these. And you can do these on Heikin-Ashi, Line, HLOC. It'll be different for each one. And you can also toggle the grid on and off. The grid is on with default, I think, but I actually kind of like not having the grid on. Again, all personal preference. And if you have really screwed this up and you don't like how it looks anymore, you're like, oh no, what did I do? I made these colors, they're so awful on my eyes. I say that as a Tulane University grad, rivals with LSU. Let's not really rivals, honestly. We can go back and we can go reset to defaults, and there we go. We reset them defaults. We have our red, we have our green candles, just like you usually do. So that's going to be the customized appearance. And the last thing we have on this panel, but it's not going to be the last thing we go over, is going to be this export chart. Export chart, let's see if this works, because my Chrome really likes to be screwy. Let's see if I click this. Okay, there we go. My Chrome is being good. Basically what this is going to do is just going to export a picture of the current chart that you have set up. It'll have all your setup on it. So if we click this right now, and now we have just basically a PNG file of our chart. So you can use this if you really have a setup that you want to, send to a trading group or send to your buddy and say, this is how I like to set my charts up. This is something I saw earlier when I was trading this. Or if there's something, instead of just taking a screenshot, if customer service is asking for something to, help investigate an issue that you're having, you can also export this chart that way as well, rather than just doing the old print screen and take a screenshot that way. That's going to be the export chart. So that has been a lot of the different functionality. There is still a little bit more functionality that I do want to go over. I guess first one, and you might have caught this as I was going through this, but you notice as I'm clicking the red and blue, it's sort of shading the red and blue up and down to buy and sell. Just a little bit of functionality that we throw in there to make it a little bit easier to see what you actually have selected. One other thing that you can't access from this panel, but you can from up here. So this little this little thing called latest price, right? Basically what it'll do is take you to the latest price on the chart. But there is one other, I guess, sort of hidden functionality that I do like making sure everyone knows because it is actually fairly useful. So as I scroll out, and so if you just, my mouse, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Okay, as I scroll up and down on this, scroll in and out, you can see that the chart is sort of expanding and contracting, or the chart area is expanding and contracting to make sure that the entire chart stays in the screen, right? It's what we call auto zoom, so it's kind of auto zooming. So as I go in, it's sort of moving the chart up and down to make sure I have a lot of the chart kind of, I can see everything in the best available way. If I start pulling the chart around, which I can just like right click, pull the chart all around, right, move it around. Now if I zoom, if I start scrolling in and out, you can see that auto zooming is not working anymore. It's no longer trying to keep the chart in sort of the square. If I hit the latest price, that's going to be how you toggle that auto zoom back on and off. So, and again, I'll show you again. We're sort of scrolling, we're scrolling. I kind of just grab it up. Now, if I scroll in and out, I no longer, actually, I don't even know where my chart is anymore. Let's say I get super far away, right? I'm like 5% above where the market is right now, and I don't know how to get back to the chart. I've completely lost. I can hit the latest price. It'll take me back only to the latest price, but it will also re-enable that sort of auto chart resizing. And I think that's cool. So I wanted to tell you all about it. So that's going to be the auto chart resizing there. Let's see, a couple other functionality that I do want to go over very quickly, or I guess one other thing we can look at very quickly here. We do have, if we go over to our call spreads, we sort of do have a different overlay for all of the different charting types. So we have hardly see this. Okay. These are very wide ranges. Okay. So we have our ranges here, and you can kind of see, sorry, let me choose a different market because it's kind of hard to see. Let's go to a commodity market. I'm sure these are a little bit easier to see here. Okay, yep. So we can see on the call spreads, we can sort of see our entire range here. And if I've selected red or blue, or sorry, buy or sell, it'll show them as red or blue. And so I can always see my range, my floor and ceiling ranges on the call spread itself. So pretty easy there. Same thing with the knockout. It's kind of a different overlay, but it'll always show you the floor and the ceiling ranges of, excuse me, of the knockout, right? And I can actually select the different knockouts from this panel. And I can actually select the buy or the sell from this top right section here. So we do try to differentiate how each instrument looks on the chart itself, just so it's really easy to know what you are actually trading at any time. One other thing before we do get into the sort of end here where I go over EMA and I go over RSI just for a little bit, there is one other bit of functionality that I do like and I do use quite often, and that's going to be the tear off chart functionality. So again, from this little right hand drop down at the top right, the hamburger menu like we talked about earlier, we can tear the chart off. And what this will do is pop a new chart out into a new window. Now this, let me actually move this back here. So I can tear this chart off. Now, why would I really use this? Well, you can actually use this to set your chart up really well. So I'm actually going to move this over, and then let's just pick up. I'm going to very quickly throw a couple other markets on here, and I can tear the chart off. I know I'm going quickly here, but I'm just tearing them off a bunch of charts. And if you have a second screen, this is how I usually like to set my second screens up. I know you can't see them, but I will show you in 1 second. Okay, so I have 4 different charts torn off, and now, oops, now I can actually go ahead and like kind of throw these all on my screen. This isn't going to look too pretty, but you can go ahead. Oops, I'm doing this. I'm doing a very poor job of showing this right now, but you can go ahead and actually kind of resize these. And I actually do it on a larger second screen, so it's a lot easier to do this. But you can kind of resize these and put a bunch of different charts on your screen at the same time. And so you can say, okay, now I can see what the Wall Street 30, what the US 500, what the Tech 100, what all of these markets are doing at the same time. You can also trade directly from here as well. So I can actually pull this up and it'll bring up a deal ticket. And so you can have a lot of different charts on your screen at the same time. Again, this looks really messy right now, but if you do have a larger second screen, it's a lot easier to sort of set all these up and look through all of these. And that's going to be, again, the tear off chart functionality. It's going to be from this little hamburger menu on the chart itself. All right, so we are almost to the end of the webinar, and I did promise that I would show a little bit of exponential moving average and a little bit of relative strength index. So let's do a knockout. We'll do a knockout here. We'll get into a, all right, we have our knockouts here. Let's do just an hour. I'm just trying to make this look a little bit cleaner so we can see what's going on here. Okay. So I'm just trying to make sure that we went through everything. I think we went through everything else we need to do. Remember, throw your questions in the chat. I will answer them as they come in. What are we going to do first? Let's do exponential moving average. So we go in here. Very basically, the exponential moving average. Where is my X? Oh, it's E. You can see here. It's a moving average. But very basically, it's exponential in that it's weighted more towards the front. Is the defaults? Let me reset these. Sorry. I guess it is. Okay. So very basically, the exponential moving average is a moving average that is exponential. Sorry, we're not going to do these on the knockouts because we're going to do these on some Forex contracts because for some reason, I think this has moved quite a lot. Okay, so we have our exponential moving average here. Very basically what this does, sorry, I know I keep stopping with this explanation of the EMA. The EMA is basically going to be weighted more towards more recent trends than it is towards older trends, right? So while a moving average might actually be a little bit more towards just it's not weighted at all, right? It's just going to show you the moving average throughout the history of the contract. The exponential moving average is going to be weighted more towards the more current transactions that you're seeing on the chart. What you generally want to be looking for the exponential moving average, and actually before I get to that, basically there's going to be 3 different moving averages that are going to be overlaid, and you can actually put a lot more on. You can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 moving averages on the chart itself. So you can throw all those on there, and but really what you want to be looking out for, and let's just do, you can also change, these, and a popular one is 26 and 52. And as you can see, what you want to be looking for with exponential moving average is when these moving averages cross, right? So generally, when the shorter term moving averages cross below the longer moving averages, that's going to be a sort of bearish signal that you're going to be wanting to look for. And so here you can see we have the 26-day moving, 26 period moving average moving below that 52 period moving average. That might be an indicator that the market might be getting a little bit more bearish. And I wish I had a better chart here because these charts are sort of being, aren't actually really great for the EMA. I really wish I had one that was having a little bit more crossing. But the general idea is you want to look for where the moving averages are crossing for different signals of the market being a little bit more bearish, being a little bit more bullish, right? If the short-term moving average starts moving above the longer term, right? So if the short term's, in this case, the 26 period is below and starts moving above the longer term moving averages, that means that's generally going to be a bullish signal, right? That's because the more the periods of the shorter duration period that you're looking at with your moving average is now showing more upside than the previous periods. Very general. This is a very general explanation, but that might be an indicator that the market might be a little bit more bullish in the future, right? A little bit more upswing in the future. Again, if it's moving below, like we see here, that might be an indicator that the market might be moving down a little bit more. I really want to choose a market. Let's see, euro dollar might be a little bit better right now. I'm sorry about choosing these markets. I chose Aussie yen, and we're like at a kind of poor time because both the Aussie and the yen it's nighttime or it's after trading hours. Yeah, this is a little bit better. So as we can actually see here, we had the this is actually a really good example. So the purple, that's going to be our 26 period. That's our shortest period moving average, right? So basically that is the one looking back least amount of time. And then we have the 52 period and the 100 period moving averages. Those were all, so it's the 100 on top and the 50 and the 26. And actually, as we can see here, the 26 period broke through first the 52 and then the 100 period moving average. And so this is sort of a bullish signal. And as we can see in this scenario, this actually was a fairly bullish signal on an uptrend in the market, right? As we kind of are moving down, we might get a cross here. Looks like the this one's moving a little bit, a little bit more susceptible to these moderate movements, and therefore we might be getting a downtrend. Again, you want to. It's not always correct, but it's a general idea of what you would be looking at. And then the relative strength. Our good old RSI, the relative strength index. It is a popular momentum indicator, as this little information blurb says. And so as we put it on, this is going to be one of those that is overlaid on the bottom. And yes, I'm very glad this one actually is giving us a kind of good scenario to talk about. So the RSI is basically going to give you measurements of relative strength, right? And those measurements are going to be between 0 and 100. I'm not going to go into fully how that's calculated right now, but the very basics of why you want to use this and where you want to use this. So you can see here we have our 70 period and our 30 period RSI. And basically the RSI is going to give you overbought or oversold signals, right? The overbought signal is going to be if the RSI goes above 70, the relative strength above 70, that is telling you that the market might be a little bit overbought and it might be moving down in the short term. If the RSI goes below 30, that might be an indicator that the market is a little bit oversold and it might be moving back up in the short term. So we can see here on our chart on the bottom here that we did have an RSI over 70 right here, and you can see that it actually, you have this little red line if it goes over the 70 period. And if we actually look, yeah, it actually did. We were a little bit overbought, and we did have a little short-term correction down below this RSI level. Again, here it looks like we were a little bit overbought, and then did have a short-term downside correction in the next kind of 2-hour candle that we had here. And again, we kind of tested these overbought ranges until we got kind of back to the middle. And you can see, I don't know if there's any oversold way back here. I'm not seeing any oversold. Let's get back to the beginning here. You can also change these ranges though. So maybe, let me just show you here. We change this to like 50. Okay, this is what it's gonna look like when it's oversold. It'll be green when it's oversold, red when it's overbought. A lot of people do like changing these to like 80-20 rather than 70-30. 70-30 is always gonna be the default, but 80-20 is gonna mean, okay, well, if it goes over 80, then we know it's really overbought, and maybe it's an indicator to, in the short term, look at the downside. Same thing with the on the bottom. If it's 20, right, it's going to be a very oversold indicator, and maybe a short-term indicator that the market might move back up in the short term. So that's RSI, that's EMA. I know that was a very, very basic explanation, but I hope that's a good sort of primer into technical analysis. Obviously, that's not the end-all be-all. Very much as you could do a little bit more learning on your own, or we have some learning center articles. We have webinars on our platform that go more in depth into different technical indicators, and I would highly recommend looking into those if you are looking at using them, because there are a lot of different indicators out there. There are a lot of different indicators that work with each other, so always good to learn a little bit more on that. That is really going to wrap up everything that I wanted to touch on today in this webinar. I am going to kind of do a little bit of an outro here. I'll put this back on the screen for a second. But mainly, I just want to give anyone else, if you do have any questions, throw them in the question area. I will go ahead and answer them quickly here. Let me just make sure nothing's coming through. Yeah, okay. So if you do have any questions while I kind of wrap this up, throw them in, I'll answer them. If you do have any questions after this webinar, that I didn't answer, you can go ahead and contact us at customer service at nadex.com for any questions on this webinar or any questions you have in general. We have a very good customer service team. I know them all personally. They're very knowledgeable. So go ahead, shoot them an email. They'll help you out. You can also live chat them. You can live chat directly on our site, and that's a very quick way to get in contact with them as well. If you are enjoying trading here at Nadex, go ahead and leave us a Trustpilot review. It does help us out a lot. And then we have a lot of socials here as well. I'm always told to plug these at the end by our great marketing and social media team. So go ahead, follow us, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. We are basically just Nadex on all of those. It is good to follow us on Twitter if you're an active Twitter user. We do post updates there on different market conditions, different things we're seeing, and just general good to have information. This webinar will be up on our YouTube channel probably within a couple hours of this ending. If you do like how I sit here and talk at you for an hour, you can go. I have a number of webinars I've done over the last couple of years on our YouTube channel. Go ahead, give those a watch. I also do webinars every Thursday at the same time. So I believe next week will be, I'm not actually sure. Next week is either Intro to Binaries or it is a call spread and knockout webinar. So not sure which one of those will be, but definitely check on the webinar part of our site. Sign up for that if you want to hang out with me for another hour and listen to me ramble on for an hour about all sorts of things that I love about our platform, our products, and that sort of stuff. Not seeing any other questions come in, so it looks like we're going to call it here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for, I think we're a little bit over an hour now. I pretty much always run over these because I do love talking about this. I do love doing these. So again, thank you. It really is kind of a highlight doing all of these webinars. And I hope all of you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and good luck to all of you in all of your trading endeavors. Have a good one, y'all.